Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
If that doesn't wake you up, I don't know what will.
First, there's an authorization.
Here we are.
Client's going to sign it. You're going to return it.
Raffle time.
Raffle time.
And showing the exact registration.
Good morning, everybody. Here we are. It is September 30th. Tomorrow is, heaven forbid, October. Can you believe it's almost October?
Yep.
So happy Wednesday. I saw this and I thought, yay, happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
So Bill Schlutius.
All right, everybody.
Okay.
Flag.
Who's the broker of record on this? The financial advisor on this?
Somebody's on the phone. Okay, Bill, go ahead.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands
one nation under God,
indivisible, with
liberty and justice for all.
You can get it back to us right away, yeah.
Okay, so Bill Sauber has the thought for the day, but I got an email from him this morning
And then
saying,
we'll email you the contract.
started harvesting.
I'll get that
Who's
signed.
talking? Can you mute
Nancy,
yourself?
It's Nancy.
Mute yourself.
Nancy, mute your phone.
Is that Nancy? I muted her. Okay, she's muted. We started harvesting at 4 a.m. today, and it looks like I will not be able to break away to join the Zoom meeting. But my thought for the day, leave everyone you meet better than you found them. Become an encourager of potential versus a destroyer of confidence. Say hello to everyone from John and me. We're getting close to winding up harvest for the year after another week or so. So thank you, Bill. Wave. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Get your exercise by waving. And is Joe with us this morning? I haven't seen him check in yet.
No.
No? Well then, and Bill Sauber's not with us? How on earth are we going to sing without him?
Rod's our songbird.
Rod.
Yeah. How about, well, we need bucking up right now, Mrs. President. So how about America the Beautiful?
Okay.
All right. So, oh, beautiful,
spacious sky,
forever
waves of rain,
for
purple
mountains,
mountains,
a
free plain.
America, God shed
His grace on thee,
and everybody else.
and crown thy God with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Play ball.
Yay. Thank you, Ron. So do we have any cyber Rotarians with us? Yes, we do. From the Rotary Club of Sebastopol, we have past District Governor Bob Rogers.
Yay.
Yay. And cyber guests we have from the hills of West County, Richard Ruge. Yay.
Yay.
Fresh roof.
Hello.
And now I get to mute you all. Once I get my, the problem I have sometimes is the mouse disappears on the screen. Mute all. Yes, you can unmute yourselves. So we only have one birthday, and that's Terry Boletto. So Terry on Saturday is Terry's birthday, which I'm sure she rarely gets a real birthday celebration because it's always in the middle of harvest. But happy birthday to Terry. No anniversaries, no Rotary anniversaries, but we do have lots of things going on. And guess what's happening this Friday? First Friday. Al, did you want to say anything about First Friday? Al.
Yourself, Al.
Or Kathy Rogers? If you want to unmute yourselves, you can say something.
Barbara's going to help me. We're going to do First Friday on Friday. Just, have a drink, and all we'll do is just sort of chat and relax and have dinner at your side if you eat early.
Right. And I will send out the Zoom information to, excuse me, to everybody today, later this morning. It is on the website in the members only section. There is the Zoom link for the meeting, but I will send it out to everybody today.
And
So,
maybe we'll learn how to do breakout rooms.
yes, that's
Yeah.
what I'm hoping Michael Cook can help us figure out how to do. You know, if Michael can, well, anyway, it'll be a work in progress, but the membership committee decided it was something that, whoops.
We don't want to forget First Fridays.
No.
First Fridays was like my favorite thing when I was a new member.
Yes, yes. Okay, and then on the 16th, we have another work party at the food bank. Michael McLaughlin has information on that. Some of us have already signed up for it, so if you are interested, let us know. And then we have the foundation raffle. Da-da-da-da-da. Diana.
There,
Curtis.
I'm unmuted.
Yes,
Yes,
you
that's
are.
coming up. That's exciting. And as I've asked people, please let me know if you've contributed. It is going to be World Polio Day. And remember the Polio Plus Society, if you donate $100, commit to donating $100, you will be a member of the Polio Plus Society. That's kind of exciting. And you'll have the raffle or the 2 baskets you see. You're going to be able to choose from one of those. If you donate $100, you'll get 6 tickets. They're normally $20 a ticket. So please be aware of that. And if you haven't gone out yet and signed up for the district conference, please do. I finally did it myself yesterday. I went back and found the link. And yeah, sign up and join us for a wonderful time. Thank you.
Now, Diana, you are filling out all of those tickets. Do you have a bucket or something that you're putting them in?
I was just thinking a brown paper bag, and I have, and I'll shake it up and draw one out. And I've already got quite a few, actually. People are being generous. I appreciate it.
Good.
And I'm really excited about this. We always have had such a wonderful time at district conference every year. And I'm kind of sad that we have to Zoom it, but it's like everything else in life right now. We will do this and it'll be a good one. So
Great. Thank you. Now, Bob Rogers. Michael Cook, if you can spotlight Bob, that would be wonderful, because we have a special presentation for 3 of our members. Bob, you need to unmute. There you go. So for 3 of our members this morning.
3, and actually there's 4 that are
Right.
in the Polio Plus Society. But like you said, Mr. Sauber is working this morning. But the first person that signed up in the whole district was David Mark Raymond.
I'm not surprised.
So
No surprise.
I have a pin here for David. David, can you reach this? You got it? Okay, great. David, your commitment and generous annual donation to the Polio Plus Fund provides tangible assistance for the global eradication of polio and advances world understanding, goodwill, and peace.
Wait,
We have
can you say that all over again? Because I want to record it, and because I'm going to send it to my mother.
Oh, okay.
Barbara, you should hit, are we?
I'm going to go ahead and say we have.
Yeah, read on. Sorry about that.
Okay. David, as a member of the Polio Plus Society, your commitment and generous annual donation to Polio Plus provides tangible assistance for the global eradication of polio and advances world understanding, goodwill, and peace. And I thank you very much. And how come your picture is on and not you?
Because I'm walking around outside. I've been watering roses and doing different things.
Okay. You're also gonna get a copy of that certificate that I just read to you.
It was awesome. Thank you.
And the pin is what you're looking at now, except it's just slightly altered. It's actually a little bit cleaner looking. And we have two more besides Bill Sauber. We have
Scott Hinsey.
Yes, I lost Scott. Are you here, Scott? I don't see him. I'll save his pin. And Bob Kaiser.
Kaiser's here.
I'm here.
Bob? Oh, okay.
Yay.
Okay. Can you get your pen here? You got it?
You know, I was talking to my granddaughter, and I was thinking that maybe we should do these meetings virtually with the new what do you call it, VR glasses. That way you can give me a virtual too. So.
Oh, I know what you mean. Matter of fact, I got the Polio Now one. These things.
Yeah.
And yeah. Well, my budget doesn't quite have that much money in it. But I'd like to thank the four of you, even though you're not all here right now, for joining the Polio Plus Society. This is the first induction, so it's a little bit rough around the edges, but you know that you have the privilege of being first. And that's because Barbara Barney, President Barbara Barney, was the first to ask for me to do this. So thank you, Barbara.
You're welcome. Thank you, Bob. And thank you to
Bob,
David.
can you give us a little rundown on what the Polio Plus Society really is?
Oh, yes.
Sure. Okay. You're all familiar with the Paul Harris Society, where if you commit to donating $1,000 per year to the Rotary Foundation, you become a society member. And Bruce, I remember you giving me my little ribbon that went behind my pen. This is similar, except it's to join what we call a Polio Plus Society. You just have to commit to donating $100 per year minimum to Polio Plus until the World Health Organization declares the world polio free. And you'll receive the pin that you're looking at on the screen and the certificate. Barbara, did you?
No.
You have the certificate there?
No, you sent that to me way too late last night.
Okay, could you give me share screen?
Whoops.
Yes.
I have to stop share. Now you can share.
Okay.
There.
So there's David, and it'll be printed on a parchment paper that I have, so it'll look slightly different, but this is recognizing you for your commitment and letting everybody that sees this know that you are in the fight to the end. And so far, our district, I'm now the In Polio Now coordinator for Zone 27. So that's 14 districts in the Northwestern US. And 4 of those districts started doing this. One started back in 2012. So when I was asked to fill this position, I thought, why can't we take the Polio Plus Society throughout the whole zone? So that's what we're doing. And right now, as of this morning, we have 40 people from District 5130 that have signed up. So that's pretty good.
Great, thank you.
Can we get the link?
You know what I'm going to do? I will send, as soon as this meeting's over, I will send to everybody a copy of the flyer and the commitment letter. And all you have to do is just sign the commitment letter, then you can go online and donate. or do it the old-fashioned way, make out a check to the Rotary Foundation, Polio Plus in the memo section, and give to your foundation chair.
Great.
And I'm sorry, I don't know who your foundation chair is this year.
Diana Curtis.
Oh, Diane, okay, great. So, so you have those choices. We encourage people to use Polio. You'll see on the flyer what we call Polio Plus Direct, where you can just do a recurring donation of $10 a month. Who's going to feel that on their credit card? Not
Right.
many people. And that's 120 per year. And if you do this before World Polio Day, October 24th, we will double your recognition points.
Great.
We have a generous donation. I mean, a generous Rotarian with lots of extra points.
Right. Thank you, Bob.
Okay. Okay.
Thank
I've
you.
used up
Thank
all
you,
your time now,
everybody.
haven't I?
Yay.
Awesome job of that, Bob. Thank you for being the champion for that.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Okay, so now we have the week in review. David sent us this because last week we had cuties. So this is another cutie, his neighbor. And all I can say is, yes, that is a cutie. Thank you. And then Brian Bauer I came across these photos. You got some recognition, your business, North Bay Business Journal. Are you at
Yes. No, I'm just feeding the chickens and taking the dog out.
This was a fascinating article. You're helping to clean up the oceans. You ought to get involved with cleaning of the rivers of the world with the Rotarian group.
Yeah, so we're doing some work with ocean cleanup.
Great. So it's in the North Bay
Ones that
Business
Chris is
Journal if
pulling
anybody
into and
wants to look. But I got
involved with Chris whenever we can.
Yeah, I got to keep moving along here because it's 7:49. I'm trying to be conscious of time. Here is our motley crew at the food bank last week. Michael McLaughlin, do you want to say anything about our motley crew and recognize everybody who was there?
Yeah, we had 7 people that showed up. Jim Glom and Nick and PJ back there, and yourself, Barbara, and Joyce and Scott. And you know, they were very, very organized. I felt totally safe. We wore our masks. We all had gloves. We all had individual workstations that were, you know, separated 6 or 8 feet apart from the other workstations. And there were like, I don't know, 30 people there spread out over a large area, and half of us packed onions, and half of us packed carrots or apples, and it was a lot of standing. I guess is the only downside to it. I think next time I'll maybe bring a stool.
Yeah.
But it was great fun, and it felt good to do, and it felt safe. So I would really encourage anybody that is at all inclined to get out and help us on Friday the 16th. Our shift is from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Thank you. And if you see in the background with this tent, they do have side curtains so that when the weather gets lousy, then they will be able to at least shut the weather out. It won't be warm. It still is quasi outdoors, but yeah, I felt everything was absolutely totally safe. But I would encourage everybody who does it to wear their Rotary shirt, because I was wearing mine, and one of the ladies at one of the other table next to me, she said, "Oh, you're in Rotary. What is Rotary?" So she got the spiel. And I actually told her, because she lived in Santa Rosa, you know, to Google Santa Rosa Rotary, because there were 5 clubs. She goes, "Really? 5 clubs?" So you never know where you might make a connection. And I was actually thinking that we need to probably do another round of club shirts. So I think we'll talk about it at the board meeting. Then Terry sent me this, and this is this week. absolutely. The charred bay leaf. We had one in our driveway all the way over here. So, yeah. Actually, you know, in 2017, you know, Bob Rogers and I remember that one extremely well because we had a couple from Oakmont from the Valley of the Moon Club staying with us when they got evacuated, and Bob's had a full house. And I actually contacted Susan Boak, who's in the Valley of the Moon Club, who stayed with us. And she said that this time when they evacuated, they were able to go to her partner Bill's condo in Roanoke Park because it was vacant. It hadn't been rented. But yeah, here we go again. So this is sad but true how much ash we had. So how are we all doing? Does anybody have anything they want to add? No?
Yeah, I do have one thing that's birthday wise. It's Ellen's dad's 91st birthday on Monday.
Nice.
And so we may have maybe a showing here for First Friday. Maybe we'll have them on.
Great.
Oh, good. Good. Thank you.
Give us some warning so we have a party for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Should we do a drive-by? Happy birthday.
There we go.
Down their driveway.
And are there any other announcements? We have 5 minutes left. I'm working too fast.
The Community Services Committee will meet next Monday, the 5th at 5:30 p.m. I'll get the Zoom link out today.
Great. And yeah, make sure, yeah, we can get it. That's Monday the 5th. 5:30.
Barbara?
Writing it down so I won't forget.
Barbara, do you want to talk about the certificate we got, or you want to save that for later?
I'm going to save that for later because it's a PDF, so I don't know how to import that.
And I sent you a JPEG this morning, so next.
Oh, you got me too late. Okay. Yeah, if you want to send me material, you have to really send it before 5 o'clock the night before, because that's about when I turn the desktop off. You know, I finished my PowerPoint and I go, I'm done. So when I get things later, if I can, I might add it in the morning because I usually start about 7. Anyway, anybody else have anything else to add? Or shall we go to our program a few minutes early? I do see that our speaker is with us. So Michael Fells. Oh,
Yes.
Any other happy bucks?
Oh, okay.
Okay, Michael, why don't you, and I will stop sharing, introduce our program. We have a very distinguished speaker this morning.
Yes, that's great. Thank you, Barbara. So it's my pleasure to introduce and welcome Dr. Benjamin Madley, who is an historian of Native America, the United States, and colonialism in world history. Born in Redding, California, Dr. Madley spent much of his childhood in Kurok country near the Oregon border, where he became interested in relationships between colonizers and indigenous peoples. He writes about Native Americans as well as colonialism in Africa, Australia, and Europe, often applying a transnational and comparative approach. Madley is the author of more than a dozen peer-reviewed book chapters and journal articles. Yale University Press published his first book, An American Genocide, the United States and the California Indian Catastrophe, 1846 to 1873. This book received prizes, including the Los Angeles Times Book Prize for History, the Raphael Lemkin Book Award from the Institute for the Study of Genocide, the Charles Redd Center Alpha Phi Theta Award for the Best Book on the American West, the California Book Awards Gold Medal for California, and the Heyday Books History Award. It was also named a New York Times Book Review Editor's Choice, Indian Country Today Hot List Book, a Choice Magazine Outstanding Academic Title, and a Carolyn Bancroft History Prize Honor Book. In 2018, Dr. Madley received the California Commendation Medal from the Military Department of the state of California. According to former Governor Jerry Brown, Madley corrects the record with his gripping story of what really happened, the actual genocide of a vibrant civilization thousands of years in the making. It's a great pleasure for me to welcome Dr. Benjamin Madley.
Michael, thank you very much for that very kind introduction. I know we don't have a lot of time, so what I'd like to do is jump right into my presentation. Am I enabled to share my screen?
Yes, you should be able to share.
Okay.
Whoops.
There it goes.
Yeah.
There it is.
There it is.
Okay, great. So between 1846 and 1870, California's Indian population plummeted from perhaps 150,000 to just 30,000. Diseases, dislocation, and starvation caused many of these deaths. However, abduction, unfree labor, mass death on reservations, homicides, battles, and over 300 separate massacres also took thousands of lives while hindering reproduction. This was, in fact, a case of genocide. In 1948, United Nations unanimously defined genocide as acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group as such, and they then specified the 5 genocidal crimes that you see here. So essentially, in order for a prosecutor to successfully convict a defendant of the crime of genocide, they have to prove 2 things. First, they have to prove intent to destroy, and second, they have to prove that the defendant committed at least one of the 5 genocidal acts specified below. Now, the study of genocide in California calls for meticulous analysis because the stakes are so high, not only for scholars like me, but also for California Indians and all US citizens, including all Californians. So if US citizens founded some regions of California, if not the state as a whole, on deliberate attempts to annihilate indigenous peoples, we have to rethink some of the basic axioms with which we understand and interpret the history of the United States. We could, for example, re-examine the assumption that indirect effects of colonization, like epidemic diseases, rather than deliberate actions, like policies leading to mass murder, were the primary cause of death in encounters between newcomers and California Indians. Exceptionalist interpretations of United States history also lose validity as we begin to examine questions like these. But it also poses explosive questions for all of us. For example, should government officials tender public apologies, as Presidents Ronald Reagan and George Herbert Walker Bush did in the 1980s, for the forcible relocation and internment of some 120,000 Japanese Americans during the Second World War? Many of them were California citizens, by the way. Should federal officials offer compensation along the lines of the more than $1.6 billion that Congress has now paid out to over 82,000 of these Japanese Americans and their heirs? Might California state officials decrease their cut of California Indians' $8.4 billion a year in annual gaming revenues as a way of paying reparations? All of these questions, and many others, are very important, but they're extremely difficult to answer without understanding policies and actions against California Indians during the years 1846 to 1873. Now, sporadic mass killings punctuated the initial years of US rule in California. But it was James Marshall's 1848 gold strike that precipitated the first local genocide. Oregon men coming south to join the gold rush played a leading role in intensifying this violence. These Oregonians rarely had connections to California's colonial economy, in which indigenous people played very important roles, and they tended to see California Indians simply as dangerous obstacles to the rapid acquisition of wealth. We're seeing very famous painting here of one of these heavily armed early prospectors. You can see he's gripping a long 50 caliber rifle in his right hand. He has a dagger stowed in his right boot. and he's also packing a pistol on his right hip. As the gold rush continued, immigrants surged into the state. Before the gold rush, there were not more than 14,000 non-Indian people in the entire state of California. But by 1860, census takers counted more than 360,000. All of these newcomers came primarily in search of wealth, but in seeking to access gold, feed themselves, dress, acquire labor, and satisfy their voracious sexual appetites, immigrants placed immense pressures on the original peoples of California. These demands triggered explosions in ranching, hunting, mining, and slave raiding. These activities generated shockwaves that had devastating impact on California Indian communities. California's new leaders magnified this impact. Under martial law, U.S. military officers made California Indian people into second-class citizens with few rights. California's 1849 Constitution made it nearly impossible for Indian people to vote. And in 1850, California's first legislature banned all Indians from giving evidence for or against whites in criminal cases, and also banned all Indians from serving as jurors. They later barred all Indians from working as attorneys and subsequently as serving in a position as judges. In combination, what these laws did was they largely shut California Indians out of participation in and protection by the new state's legal system. Abduction played a major role in California's Indian population decline. In 1850, legislators passed an Act for the Government and Protection of Indians, which legalized white custody of Indian minors and Indian prisoner leasing, while allowing courts and juries to summarily reject Indian testimony. Thus forced into unpaid work on trumped-up charges for indefinite periods of time. Federal authorities also played an important role in this population decline by failing to protect California Indian people from the citizens of California. And the establishment of California's militia system now marked the rise of an officially sanctioned killing machine. Between 1850 and 1861, 3,414 militiamen enrolled in 24 separate militia expeditions, killing at least 1,342 California Indians. However, the impact transcended these numbers. Militiamen served as a widely publicized state endorsement of Indian killing, communicating an unofficial grant of legal impunity for those who would kill Indians, while inspiring many vigilantes to do so. Indeed, vigilantes killed over 6,400 California Indian people between 1846 and 1873, contributing significantly to the graph of population decline that you see here. Genocidal intent was only thinly veiled. In January of 1851, California Governor Peter Burnett declared that a war of extermination will continue to be waged until the Indian race becomes extinct. The following month, California's state legislators borrowed $500,000 to pay for past and future anti-Indian militia operations. Meanwhile, the state established an arsenal of arms in San Francisco donated to them by the United States Army to arm California militia expeditions. In 1852, U.S. Senator John Weller, who became California's governor in 1858, told his fellow U.S. senators that California Indians, and I quote, will be exterminated, insisting to his fellow U.S. senators in Washington, D.C. that the interest of the white man demands their extermination. That same year, state legislators passed a bond for $600,000 to support additional militia operations, even as vigilante killings continued. The share screen function seems to have scrambled my slides a bit here, but what we're looking at is an advertisement for the sale of a human being. This is a broadsheet that would have been posted on buildings in the 1850s. Once at reservations, survivors often encountered institutionalized malnutrition and lethal starvation. The Concow leader, Tomiyanem, recollected that after state volunteers had forced his people onto the reservation at Mendocino, quote, "We were very hungry and the Concows began to die very fast." Other reservations proved little better. In about 1860, Tomiyanem and his people relocated to the south to Round Valley Reservation, where he remembered there was even less to eat. And he wasn't exaggerating. Official documents that I found from 1860 indicate that officials there regularly provided working Indians with 480 to 910 calories per person per day. 2 years later, after the United States Congress slashed the budget for California reservations, daily rations at Round Valley fell to 160 to 390 calories per person per day, and those who did not work were not fed. Some white colonists also used reservation Indians as disposable laborers. For example, according to one colonist testifying in a court of law, and I quote, "About 300 died at the Round Valley Reservation during the winter of 1856 to 1857 from the effects of packing them through the mountains in snow and mud. They were generally worked naked and packed 50 pounds each, if able." At California reservations, official neglect took an untold number of lives. Federal employees also killed large numbers of California Indians more directly. During the US Civil War, 15,725 California men enlisted in the United States Army, which now directly took over the killing. Vigilante operations flourished alongside these campaigns, but the genocide was now primarily a federal project. We're looking here at a photograph, an ambrotype, of the first elected civilian governor of the state of California, Peter Hardeman Burnett, the man who said that a war of extermination will continue to be waged until the Indian race becomes extinct. Here I just wanted to show you, again, the order is scrambled, but this is one of the bonds issued by the state of California. They raised over $1.5 million in the 1850s to pay for expeditions against California Indians, and the federal Congress then reimbursed the state of California almost $1 million of that money. Federal employees, as I said, killed large numbers of California Indian people during the US Civil War. Many of them were led by professional West Point graduates like this officer, Colonel Henry M. Black, photographed by the famous photographer Matthew Brady. And the US Army ended up killing thousands of California Indians during that war. And many of the people that they killed were surrendered civilians. There are multiple massacres of prisoners of war and captured civilians. And even after officers concluded their last large-scale operation, the infamous 1872 to 1873 Modoc War, they hanged and beheaded 4 Modoc leaders who had surrendered before shipping their severed heads to the U.S. Army Medical Museum in Washington, D.C. The California Indian catastrophe fits the 2-part legal definition set forth in the UN Genocide Convention. We're looking here at one of the most famous images of a California massacre in progress. This was made by J. Ross Brown in 1861. This is a depiction of the Eel River Rangers massacring a village of Yuki Indians by moonlight, probably in November or December of 1860 in southern Mendocino County. So how does this story I've told you constitute genocide? Well, first of all, perpetrators demonstrated in both word and in deed their intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group as such. Second, they committed not one, but all 5 of the genocidal acts listed in the convention. From 1846 to 1873, vigilantes, militiamen, and regularly enlisted United States Army soldiers killed at least 9,492 to 16,094 California Indians and probably many more. In contrast, California Indian people killed fewer than 1,500 non-Indians during this period. And the just released last week digital atlas of California Indians lays out all of the 200 pages of data from the appendices in my book online, so that you can now see each and every one of these acts of lethal violence mapped on a map of California. It's broken up by region and by time. And it also allows us to, or you, to go directly to the primary source from which I gleaned the information, whether it is a newspaper account or someone's journal or an official military report. Almost all of that data has now been scanned. We've been working on this for 2 years. So you can see all of the data, and it's publicly available now online. Other acts of genocide proliferated too. Many rapes and beatings occurred, meeting the Genocide Convention's definition of causing serious bodily harm to victims on the basis of their identity and with the intent to destroy the group. The sustained military and civilian policies of burning to the ground California Indian villages and then driving survivors into inhospitable alpine and desert regions also amounted to deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life intended to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. And some federal administrators at California reservations committed the same crime. Further, because malnutrition and exposure predictably lowered birth rates while increasing miscarriages and stillbirths, some state and federal policymakers also appear guilty of imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. Finally, the state, professional slave raiders, and federal officials were all intimately involved in the forcible transfer of children from the group to another group. 3,000 to 4,000 or more California Indian children suffered such forced transfers during these years. Sufficient evidence thus exists to designate the California Indian catastrophe a case of genocide according to the UN Genocide Convention. So what can we do about all of this? We cannot bring back the dead, and we cannot undo the past, but we can tell the truth of what befell the original peoples of California. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have questions? I think
Yes.
Just half a second. One of the things I was wondering is, Dr. Madley, can you get a link to those documents online and get it to Michael Fells so that he could send it out, or we can add it to our website? Because that would be fascinating to be able to see.
Sure.
You know, we have
that might be something, if you'd like me to come back and talk about it and walk you through it, I could do that. Or the person at California State Parks, Jason McCannell, who's a geographer, he and I have been working on this project for, well, we first came up with the idea over dinner with Jerry Brown in Sacramento in 2017, I think. So it's been gestating for a while, and we had to go out and raise the money for it. But it's not just an atlas of the violence that California Indian people suffered. It's also a tremendous amount of fascinating material about other eras of California Indian history. For example, we have an interactive trade map that shows all of the pre-colonial trade routes that went up and down California. It's almost a perfect overlay for our current highway system, by the way. But it also has a layer in which there are straight lines connecting all the different tribal entities, so that it allows scholars or interested citizens to see what exactly tribes were trading to each other. So you can see obsidian being dispersed from the southern Cascades for cutting tools, for arrowheads. You can see dried fish traveling from the Pacific all the way over to Arizona. You can see the movement, all kinds of different commodities and luxury goods. And we're now starting to build out the whole section on the Mission era. And there's just a huge amount of material, including space for every one of California's federally recognized 109 tribes to upload and enter information of their own. Also space for all of the state recognized tribes to enter information of their own. And so we're starting to see tribal leaders and officers uploading videos of dances and cultural activities, documents like their tribal national constitutions and civil and criminal codes, photographs, and even announcements. So it was created by state parks for California Native American Heritage Commission through the governor's office there. But it's meant to be for all Californians, and it's a really exciting interactive gateway to learn about California Indians past, present, and future.
Super. Okay, now questions.
Hello. Ben, it's Marty Webb. Question for you. You know, the University of California was very, very proud of the fact that Ishi lived there. Can you talk a little bit about Ishi and the background on him and what the University of California got from him by him living there?
So I'm going to be brief because his descendants from the Yahi group, it's a subgroup of the Yana to which he belonged, have asked scholars to stop writing about him and stop talking about him in order to let his soul rest. But in brief, you know, he lost all of his family members. I've written a whole article about the Yana genocide, which is really horrific and understudied. He's made very, very famous by Theodore Kroeber's best-selling book, and she wrote a children's book, and there have been 2 novels about Ishi. But he went to live with Kroeber, who's really the anthropologist who founded the study of California Indian people. And when he died, a lot of things that Kroeber asked them not to do were done. He was vivisected, and his brain was taken away and held by the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. for decades. And finally, Yana people through Redding Rancheria in Redding and Susanville Rancheria and a couple of other communities, through lawsuits and negotiation, finally got his brain back. And fairly recently, it was interned in a secret location in the Yana homeland, in a totally inaccessible cave in a cliff. If you want to read more about him, there's a great deal been published about him. And what is happening right now at UC Berkeley is a hot debate about whether or not to rename Kroeber Hall, which is the anthropology building at UC Berkeley. And some people have suggested that the hall be renamed after him, after Ishi. But as I said earlier, his descendants and members of citizens of Susanville Rancheria and Redding Rancheria and other reservations and rancherias that have Yahi descendants would strongly prefer that people not be writing about and publicizing him, because according to their traditions, it is taboo to speak about particular individuals specifically. So you'll note in the book, there's no image of him, and there's intentionally no discussion of him in particular, but there is a deep investigation of the multiple genocidal campaigns that nearly succeeded in wiping out the Yana people, not only the Yahi, but also the northern and central Yanas as well.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
Should we still be using the term Indian? That seems to be part of the genocide.
Yeah, that's a really good question. You know, I have a section on names and naming in the introduction of the book, and I intentionally use Indian as well as Native American and Indigenous in this book, in part because outside the rarefied halls of academia, when I go to California Indian communities, to reservations and rancherias, everybody talks about Indians. And it's also an important term because Indian country is a very deeply defined term in American US law. So Indian law is the name of the specific field of legal study, and Indian country refers to in a whole series of case law and congressional acts and executive orders. We can't really just jettison that. What I find among my students and among my colleagues is an increasing use of the term indigenous. And if you want to be as respectful as possible, people always prefer that you refer to them by the tribe that they belong to. And if you're in doubt, just ask someone how they would prefer to be addressed or discussed. That's what I do. But I freely use American Indian, Native American, indigenous. But throughout this book, I try to very carefully identify anyone if possible. But that's difficult because this was such an incredibly turbulent time in which people are fleeing what are effectively hunter-killer death squads. And so it's hard to know exactly who someone is just by where they are, because everybody's on the run, everybody's refugees.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. That was incredibly difficult to listen to, but very enlightening and fascinating. The question I have is, I grew up in California, went to public schools, and I don't remember hearing in that kind of detail about it. How is this being presented in elementary education, or if it is at all?
Well, Jerry, that's a great question. The short answer is that it is not. But under the previous governor, under Jerry Brown's leadership, a bill was passed to allow for the creation of a one-year-long Native American studies curriculum for the high school level in California. That curriculum is still under development, and there's a huge amount of work that needs to go into it, because in order for it to be appropriate, outreach needs to be done to every one of those federal and state recognized tribes. And that's almost 200 different government entities in California alone. And that doesn't even address all of the other American Indian people who have moved to California over the years. So the context is that there are more Native American people living in California than in any other state in the Union, over 750,000 individuals, according to the 2010 census. So there are many stakeholders. But what is happening right now is that we are just denying our youth this fabulously rich history of at least 13,000 years of indigenous occupation here in California, over 60 different major tribal nations, and according to linguists, as many as 100 separate languages. There's 7 major language families in California. And those languages are as different from each other as French is to Chinese. So it's a really rich cultural treasure trove that I believe we're just denying our youth. But hopefully that will change. But it's up to voters like you. You know, the reason that the Holocaust is taught, that it is a requirement in the state standards, is because of political action by Californians. The reason that the rape of Nanking is taught and is a requirement in our state educational standards is also political action. You know, we have the Armenian genocide in our state standards because when George Deukmejian, an Armenian American, was governor of this state, he made it a priority to get that through. So citizens like yourselves can write letters to Gavin Newsom and to local school boards and say, you know, we think this ought to be a priority. We think our youth is missing out. I do think that the education question is going to be a major issue of the Truth and Healing Commission that Gavin Newsom established last year and that is now working. And Christina Snyder, who is the chair of that commission, and also who runs California Native American Heritage Commission, she is acutely aware of the educational issues, and that there is a group of us in the UCs based at UC Davis who are all working on what might state educational standards look like. And we have been working together for 2 years. We put together a pretty substantial document of recommendations. I don't want to see that educational component limited to high school. So, and neither do my colleagues in other departments at other UCs. So what we've suggested is a comprehensive plan to introduce different educational modules all the way from kindergarten through 12th grade, so that this becomes an organic, deeply integrated part of how we teach our youth in the state of California.
Thank you.
Is this something that,
Okay, last question.
is this something that is actually really part of the white privilege and critical race theory that the administration is fighting so hard against now? Is this a sub branch of that?
No, I think that this is a move that has really deep roots. Educators and political activists have been trying to get California Indian topics into the U.S. or into the California state educational standards for over 40 years. So this began in the 1970s. It's been difficult for it to get traction. There's been resistance along the way, but I think this really started under Jerry Brown's administration, this move. And so we've been working on this for a long time. And by we, I mean activists, California Indian leaders, professors throughout the UC system and the Cal State system and the community college system. So people like James Rawls at Contra Costa College in the Bay Area, he started working on these issues in the mid-1970s. And there were folks at public schools in Humboldt and other Northwest California counties working on this. We didn't even have the high school teachers didn't have the right to teach a Native American studies class until Jerry Brown's administration.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and there really almost nobody teaches Native American studies at the high school level. I've met a handful of people who do it. There's one very inspiring teacher that I've talked to who's in Roseburg, Oregon, and he did it all on his own and kind of under the radar. But there are mandates in other states to teach Indigenous history and Indigenous studies. So California is not exactly on the cutting edge. Alaska has already done it. Washington State has done it. Montana has done it. Oklahoma and some other states. So it's not as if we're pioneering something, but we have to come up with something very particular to California and appropriate to California. And frankly, those other states have a simpler time of it because they don't have nearly as many Native people or as many Native people who are citizens of so many different nations from within and beyond their own state borders.
Great. Thank you very much. This has been fascinating. We've enjoyed it. And thank you again. And we're looking forward to maybe reading the book, and not looking forward to it because of course it would be rather on the depressing side. But I'm just fascinated. So thank you very much.
Let me say one more thing before I go.
Okay. First, can you unshare?
Yeah, I just want to talk about the cover here for a minute. I think I heard somebody trying to ask a question about the cover that got cut off. This is Kintpuash, Captain Jack. It's a portrait of him taken in Wairika, probably in 1864. And, in contrast to Ishi, this is a hero of the Modoc people. It's on the homepage both of the Modoc Nation of Oklahoma and the Modoc people in Southern Oregon. And I think maybe the question was, why are you showing this person on the cover of your book when you wouldn't show Ishi? And that's just the question of having respect and asking people, finding out whether or not they want to be represented and discussed.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Listening? Very good.
Okay. So now I can go back to sharing.
Did I win?
Well, we're going to get there. Hang on. So who's number 17, Michael?
Well, number 17 is Michael McLaughlin.
Michael McLaughlin, here's your ticket. I will scratch it and let you know if you win. Now, all the rest of them have all been busts, so
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
don't hold your breath.
Barbara, I still haven't gotten my check for $100,000 you were going to send me.
Yeah, well, I can send it to you, but it'll bounce. So Linda Sinkay, do you have a way clean joke for us?
I do. So, two 95-year-old men, Jack and Sam, are huge baseball fans. One day, Jack falls seriously ill and doesn't have long to live. Sam visits him in the hospital to say goodbye and asks him a favor before he passes. Hey, Jack, when you get to heaven, can you see if there's baseball there? If there is, find a way to come back and tell me. I'll certainly try for you, as you're my best friend, said Jack. Later that night, Jack passed away. The very next day, Jack's spirit paid a visit to Sam, waking him from a sound sleep. Sam exclaimed, Jack, it's you. You came back. Tell me, is there baseball in heaven? Jack said, well, I've come with good news and bad news. Well, what's the good news then? Asked Sam. There is baseball in heaven, said Jack. Oh, thank goodness, said Sam, feeling wonderful. But what's the bad news? You're pitching next Tuesday.
Thank you. Well, Michael, here's your ticket. Probably can't really see. It's a bust. Sorry. So Joe's not here. So Rod, if you can take us away with Happy Trails. Where's Rod gone? Well,
Happy trails to you
until we meet again.
Happy
trails to you, smiling until then. Happy trails to you till we meet again.
Thank you all.
Stay safe, everybody.
Barbara,
Next week.
you're next, right? Barbara, we're talking in a few minutes.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Soon as I.
Kathy, we tee off at 8:50 tomorrow morning.
Let me know when you're around. I got 6 cold beers.